Welcome everyone to the Designing San Diego's Future event. My name is Fabienne Prolov and I am the Vice Chair of the City of San Diego International Affairs Board and the Executive Director at the San Diego Diplomacy Council. For those of you who have never heard about the City of San Diego International Affairs Board, we're a group of international experts, all volunteers, that are nominated by the mayor of San Diego to promote San Diego's global identity, cultural connections, cultivate international economic competitiveness, and advise the mayor and the city council on international issues affecting San Diego. As the border city that is home to world-class universities like UCSD, a unique and thriving relationship with Mexico, one of the largest and most diverse immigrant populations in America, and San Diego leadership naturally governs with a global outlook. Yet the city never designed a global vision that communicates to the world this identity and never really look at where it does best and where we can actually improve our performance. So earlier this year, the Board of Directors, the Board of International Affairs, was commissioned by the Mayor's Office to design a global vision plan for the coming 10 years. And the vision for the San Diego's global strategy begins with an inventory of cities' assets, needs, and opportunities. To do this ambitious work, we partnered with Booz Allen Hamilton and also UCSD Design Lab that so kindly invited us today for this design week. First, we conducted a benchmark study to see how San Diego is doing in comparison with other US cities and international cities across different areas such as economy, education, environment, diplomacy, and culture. And for those of you who had a chance to look at the guide that is attached to this session, you could see what are those areas in more details. So now that we've completed this study, we want to look at those same areas with a more human-centric design approach. And this is why we're here today. What does that mean? What is that human-centric design approach? It means that we want to hear from our local leaders, our partners, community members, and students, college and high school students, like those that are joining us today. So as our region prepares for its next evolution across this coming decade, it makes sense for us to consult with the next generation of leaders, with those who are in high schools today. And we are very lucky today to have a remarkable panel of K-12 students from across the region. I want to welcome all our speakers. Thank you for joining us. And I'd like to start by introducing them to you one after another. And let's start with Simuline Gupta. She's in 6th grade at Sycamore Ridge School in Del Mar. Simuline enjoys tennis, traveling, classical Indian dance, filmmaking, and theater. Just as an anecdote, this summer she was cast as Moana in an outdoor socially distanced musical theater camp, and she'll tell us a little bit more about it later in the conversation. Next with us is Symphony Jackson. She's 15 years old. She's a senior at E3 Civic High School in downtown San Diego. She's fluent in Spanish and served as the corresponding secretary in the Black Student Union, as well as the lead of the poster and marketing committee. Symphony is currently enrolled at Southwestern College and is passionate about science. Her passion was the impetus for her participation in the Salk Institute internship in the summer 2020, where she researched climate change and other scientific phenomena. Her ultimate goal is to become a surgeon. Thank you, Symphony, for joining us today. Moving on, I'd like to introduce you to Isabella Lee. She is a 5th grader at the wonderful school that is Sycamore Ridge in Del Mar Unified School District. Isabella is extremely driven and loves to regularly challenge herself to expand her knowledge and experiences. She's an extremely athletic and outgoing person. She loves a variety of different things, including golfing, soccer, skiing, and swimming. A very interesting fact about Isabella is that she enjoys reading and writing novels in hope that one day she'll become a well-renowned author. Thank you to you as well, Isabella, for joining us. In addition, we are very honored to have Rishaji with us today. Rija is a sixth grader at Design 39 campus in the Poway Unified School District. She has been a Girl Scout for the last 6 years and recently completed her bronze project, creating a guide to successful virtual Girl Scout meetings. She's the co-chair of the student design team in her school. Welcome, Risha, and thank you for joining us. Let's move on now to Sopa K. Sopa is a wonderful addition to this panel of speakers. He was born in one of the 9 refugee camps on the border of Thailand and Myanmar. Sopa identifies himself as Karen, which is one of the ethnic minorities in Myanmar. Sopa K has lived in America for 11 years now and is a senior at E3 Civic High, where he is a student body president. Sopa is a community activist and has received multiple awards for his leadership. And most recently, he was honored as one of the 25 most remarkable teens in San Diego by the Public Defender's Youth Council. Sopa, it's really an honor to have you. You have done so many impressive things already, and we look forward to hearing more about your perspectives on our city's issues. Finally, I'd like to introduce you to Ruslana Fogler. She's a senior at La Jolla Country Day, where she's an active member of the Innovation Lab and STEM departments. In her sophomore year, she pitched a tourist schedule mobile app. It's an app designed to conveniently and cleanly display the school schedule for any upcoming events during the school year. And the interesting fact here is that the app now has over 400 users and is used by students, parents, faculty, and staff alike. I can't wait to see how it looks like, Rosanna. What an accomplishment. Before we move with our panel conversation, I just want to mention that for those of you who are in the audience, you're welcome to send your stories or your questions through the discussion, throughout the discussion via the chat function. Our colleagues at the Design Lab at UCSD will forward them to me and will help with forwarding them when we begin the Q&A. So in other words, you are part of this conversation as well. It's a very interactive dialogue. And now I'd like to start by you, Simuline, and ask you the following question. This summer, I understand you attended a theater camp, but there were some issues with the access to space. And obviously the pandemic might have impacted this access of space, but my question to you is how your peer and yourselves were able, how did it affect your ability to participate in the activities that you were so passionate about? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were unable to hold our theater camp inside our regular studio. Therefore, we sought out an outdoor space to perform and rehearse our summer musicals. In addition to the pandemic affecting our location, we also made changes to several theater protocols. We were separated into 2 pods, which entered opposite sides of the stage and did not interact. Our dance numbers were choreographed to be socially distanced, and we wore masks the entire time, even during the performance. The final production took place in a clearing on a parking lot with the audience members in their cars and the sounds transmitted through the radio.
Thank you, Simran. So I can see that measures were taken to adjust to the situation created by the pandemic. But what kind of spaces would you like to see in the future from the city to help you and your peers pursue your passions beyond this pandemic?
Although the drive-in stage was fantastic and successful, I would love to have more opportunities for students to rehearse and perform in outdoor spaces. For example, if new park designs or updates could include an outdoor stage, students could have so many more opportunities to do outdoor theater as well as shows.
Wonderful. Thank you, Simran. And so the importance of having spaces that serve the interests and needs and like you, the passion of our community members is something that I can see is important to you. I wonder if anybody else on the panel has any suggestions or insight on that issue. No? All right. Well, let's move on then to you, Symphony. I understand you have a passion for science and technology. And what sort of opportunities have been most meaningful to you in building your knowledge of these topics?
So far, I've had a few opportunities to build my knowledge on science, one of which was a opportunity for me to create something to solve a problem in the environment, which is called the auto reminder. And it is this piece of technology which can benefit systems in San Diego specifically, but anywhere. It's not San Diego specific, but as a San Diegan, it's something that I have, and I have talked to a few bus drivers in San Diego and noticed that bus idling was a really big problem. So I created this thing called the auto reminder to remind buses, like a seatbelt reminder in a car, but it is to remind buses when too much fuel is going at one time, stop or go into neutral or whatever is specific to that specific situation. So that was one opportunity. I did a lot of research on climate change to create. And then I also had an opportunity to work in the internship called the Salk Institute. And there I was able to research anything that I wanted. It was very self-driven. It was not like a classroom. So I was able to research climate change. I took that as a chance to research climate change and delve deeper into climate change by reading advanced articles that I normally would not in class and
So, based on your experience with the development of this technology and your internship at the Salk Institute, what sort of recommendations would you give to the city leaders to address climate change?
Living in San Diego and near the beaches and near a lot of wildlife, it's really easy. It's really hard, my bad. It's really hard to ignore the problems as leaders of the city. So I would say to listen, especially to younger voices, because I think that the younger generation is going to be hit harder than previous generations with climate change. Studies show that climate change will hit harder in the next 20, 30 years and will become irreversible in the next few decades. And so I think it is a really big problem of the younger generation. And I think that city leaders should take the time to speak to the younger generation and those who are passionate about it, like myself, to gain more information and knowledge on that.
Thank you. We certainly gave a lot of importance to your voice today. You're making a very good point. I also understand you play a number of leadership roles, including as a member of the Black Student Union. Why do you think organizations that support and affirm Black life and culture are important, especially right now?
Well, growing up, I can say that even in San Diego, which is a very diverse place, that I have not really seen a lot of Black people represented in my classroom. I've often been the only Black person in a lot of my spaces. So I think it's really important to have places that encourage and safe places that encourage growth within Black students, because seeing a lot of Black students with a lot of different interests and a lot of success, I think it's really inspiring and it's really eye-opening to someone who has not really experienced that all of their life. I have tried to take action in such ways in the past few months. I have started new hobbies. I've started surfing with my little brother, and it didn't take long for me to notice that we were the only Black people in the ocean often. So I have been encouraged to start a kind of club for other young Black girls and boys, and to encourage them the water and see more diversity.
And that's you taking this initiative at an individual level. What do you think San Diego as a city can do better to affirm Black life and cultural integration?
As a minority, I think that Black voices can often be not uplifted a lot. So I think that it's important to speak to them. I think that there's a lot of problems and a lot of individual experiences that Black people have that I have not experienced. And I think that by speaking to them, there's a lot that you can learn. I have spoken to a lot of Black people and their personal experiences. And I think that you learn, like even in this climate that we have today, that a lot of things we see that we believe are rare aren't always very rare. I mean, there's a lot of problems that go on in Black lives. So I think it's important to speak to them, learn about the experiences, and become a little bit more sensitive to them.
Thank you, Symphony, for sharing your perspective. Very, very interesting. Now I'd like to turn to Isabella. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Isabella. I know you have an interest in climate change too, which is wonderful. It is a global issue with local consequences, as you know, and the International Affairs Board is very much looking into it as it designs its global vision for 2030. Why do you think it is important for young people like you to learn about the environment and especially climate change?
I think it's important for young people like me to learn about the environment, specifically climate change, is because we need to learn about this so we can make a difference and we can help our generation in the future. And we also need to preserve Earth for as long as possible because we do need it to survive. For example, we need the animals and plants for our ecosystem to thrive, and we need trees to produce oxygen for us. And without Earth to house all of these things, well, it would be really hard to survive, maybe impossible.
Absolutely. Thank you for this remark. And I also understand that there was a particular project in third grade that you were involved in about ocean health. Can you tell us about that project?
Sure. For the project, my class collected bottle caps from beaches, parks, and from their own homes to use. And once we had gathered enough, we started to hot glue them to a large sheet of paper, which we then taped to the wall. And I helped to hot glue the bottle caps to make a whale, which was the animal my class chose because we were learning about a whale that washed up on shore and was full of plastic. And that was so unfortunate that we decided to design it with bottle caps. And I learned a lot from this project, and I learned that it was healthier for the environment because we aren't polluting the earth with our bottle caps. We're using them for a beautiful art piece. So I found that really inspiring.
Very inspiring indeed. Thank you, Isabella. I'd like now to turn to Risha. Risha, thank you for joining us as well today. So you told me before that you've been giving some thoughts about education models and distance learning during the pandemic. Can you explain your school's philosophy of creating a culture of impact? And how does that culture of impact come to life inside and outside of the classroom?
Yeah. So at Design 39, the design process is at the center of almost everything that we do. And for me, the center of the design process is around learner-centered design and student agency. So student agency means that students have a voice in how they want to learn, and they have a safe place to test and experiment with their ideas. One unique such experience for me with around student agency was this last summer when I participated in the student design team at my school. We were brainstorming ideas for problems and solutions to improve distance learning in the spring to virtual learning this fall. We split our research into four main categories, and I was part of the equity team. We brainstormed ideas, and a few of them were to give work completion checklists to students who are falling behind. And we also spoke with teachers and school counselors as to how we could provide extra help to students with special needs so they can also enjoy virtual learning. Overall, Design 39 really helped me with this process because since we're in the testing phase right now, they're helping implement these ideas at the beginning of the school year. And it's really inspiring and it's very encouraging to me because they're allowing students to have a voice and they're helping us move forward with our ideas, which is very important to me.
So I understand before in a conversation we had, you mentioned superpowers, the concept of superpowers. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. I don't really know what it is all about. So what kind of superpowers have you learned from other members of your community? What are you referring to by superpowers?
So, superpowers are somebody's unique skills and strengths that they have developed as a result of their personal experiences. And at our school, we have electives called explorations, deep dives, and workshops where teachers teach classes based on their unique superpowers. One such elective that I took was called Entrepreneurism and Business, where I learned from my two teachers who had a business related superpower of how to create a business, how to create a logo and mission statement, how to design a product that people would actually buy, how to manage money, pitch the product to investors, and more. So I have been a part of this exploration for 3 years. And this last year, as a part of my business EnviroTote, we created environmentally friendly, reusable tote bags that people could use when grocery shopping or just carrying everyday items. This taught me about using locally sourced materials, that's helping San Diego's economy, and it taught me about giving back to the community because after our Maker 39, where we sell our products to other members of the community, we donated 5% of our profit to a local nonprofit organization. Overall, I learned about business and using locally sourced materials and donating 5% of our profit to local nonprofit, thus going back to the impact, helping make an impact in my society.
Wow, what an interesting model. Like you said, that combines business skills, environmental impact, and socially driven sort of initiative. Thank you for sharing this inspiring model. And are those important? Are those skills so important for you and through the lens of other people's unique cultural identities? Why is it important to learn new skills like superpower skills?
So it's important to learn about people's unique cultural identities because then you can empathize with them better. And when designing, you can design meaningful solutions that will impact them. It's also important because in this way, multiple people can have access and learn about other people's skills, therefore improving the community as a whole.
Mhm. So both educations here and cultural integration, sort of innovative models. I really found that inspiring, especially as we look at where we want our city to be in 2030. Thank you for sharing this perspective. I'm now going to turn to Salpa. Salpa, thank you for joining us today from City Heights, I believe. This is where the San Diego Diplomacy Council office is, by the way, and I know quite well this neighborhood. You've held many roles and received accolades for your advocacy and social justice work, and really impressive work. Um, what led you to advocacy and what causes do you champion?
So, what led me to advocacy was mm, joining this program called the ACLU Advocacy Institute. This institute helped me find find the community activism side of me, where I wanted to advocate advocate about like issues and topics that goes on around nationally and maybe globally, and also see, cause a cause like some of the causes that I champion are hunger issues, mm, and issues that deal with fixing the education system, ways of improving it, and also giving back to to low income communities that don't really have like, that are at a disadvantage compared to higher or middle income communities.
Thank you for advocating for meaningful responses to those issues. What sort of of solutions are you advocating for to address those issues?
So some of the solutions for the issues, right? Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the issues I would say is, say for fixing the education system or just making it better. Like for low income youth would be like having organizations in various communities to be able to put youth and students in better schools and in schools that have are not at a disadvantage, where schools have the modern technologies to be able to help them and educate them, and also a lot of caring faculties and caring counselors to be able to guide them through the process of like through like a college process, or just guiding them through life to giving them encouragement to help them like keep going and pushing forward in life.
Mm. And how can we preserve these communities of diverse voices and ensure equitable access to education beyond what you just said right now? Are there any other ways to improve um, the community's presence and access to education?
Uh, Definitely, yes. I would say I grew up in a lot of neighborhoods.
Mm.
I've lived in a lot of neighborhoods. I would say like nine different neighborhoods, and I've seen a lot of similar trends, such as there's like violence, and then low income. There's poverty, and youth have trouble like staying off of the streets and staying like within on the right path to the education system. From my experience, I would say that having mentors is a must. It's very mandatory to really guide these youth into staying on the path of education. Of course, everybody has everybody has their own success. Like some people will succeed at a different time in life. Not everybody's path are the same. And I would say, just having a mentor or having somebody to be able to guide them on the right path is really important. That's what helped me be on a good path, on a path to college.
This is wonderful, and you are on the right path. Such an impressive list of accomplishments. The rich diversity of the city heights neighborhood is at risk because I understand a lot of people are living due to the lack of affordability. What are your thoughts about this issue?
So this issue, um, like I said, I lived in various neighborhoods. I've been part of the people who have had to move out of neighborhoods that are like high income, not high income, but like you have to pay a lot of the rent is so much that you have to move out. Recently, just a few weeks ago, two of my neighbors, right, like that live right next to me, they had to move out because rent was it wasn't cheap for them, and plus we're in low income, so it's very hard for them to maintain and to pay the bills. So they had to choose a state and a community that would like the rent is cheaper and more affordable. So like the way I feel about this is, I think just this constant like rate of rent being high in San Diego, it will be pushing out a lot of diversity in the community, and this is very negative because you'll lose a lot of beautiful cultures that make up the population that makes up City Heights. I'm from City Heights, as you know, and this is what is it? I think this really needs to change, and this really needs to be more addressed and improved on as well.
Such a good point. It's really how we preserve the fabric of those communities that are so rich in culture. Um, Thank you, Sopa, for sharing your experience with us and your perspectives. I'd like now to turn to Ruslana, who is from La Jolla Country Day. Ruslana, can you talk about the role of innovation and entrepreneurship and how it has played in your education at La Jolla Country Day?
Well, I apologize if my background was a little bit noisy. Basically, innovation and design and entrepreneurship, I feel like they've helped me mature into a more diligent and inquisitive person in general. So basically, in the innovation lab, our school, La Jolla Country Day, has an innovation lab. It's a pretty big program, and a lot of what we do is basically all we do for a period of time of the brainstorming session is like question: is this the right solution, or like are these the right steps I'm taking? And I think those questions, like where you're just questioning everything, is really important in terms of education in general. You always want to be sure that you're understanding things correctly and not from a point of perspective, say historical bias or like that kind of thing. So it just innovation has led me to, I'd say, ask questions more in class, answer questions more in class, be more active, and also just a sense of empowerment. Like when you see these issues, you feel, um, I don't know, more able to confront them, and I think that's really cool.
Such an interesting approach. Can you share the ways projects like your school's Peach Fest have allowed you to explore? Um, um, what sort of project this has allowed you to explore, especially through subjects like math and science that I know you really enjoy?
Right. So to give a little bit of background, every year, well, not last year given the unusual circumstances, but basically every year our school has a little pitch where students are given the opportunity to present one of their personal projects to a panel of school administration and also students' parents who are affiliated with business and that kind of thing. And they have the opportunity to earn funds for their personal projects. I believe some previous projects were like earplugs for kids on the autism spectrum because they're sensible to loud noises, and like a startup for alternatives to fast fashion. For me personally, I was able to utilize my love for like math and computer science to build a mobile app for our school. It's currently available on both iOS and Android phones. And basically, it was just really cool to have an opportunity to put out something tangible. Oftentimes, we're kind of stuck in these classrooms where we like create projects that are like simulations of something. And I think just having the opportunity to put something that's real out there was just a really cool opportunity.
Such a cool opportunity, like you're saying, and what a legacy for you as well, right? As a sophomore student, you know that the school is going to continue using this app. Like, what a inspiring model for other students to follow your path as well.
Thank you.
Why do you think experiences outside the traditional classrooms are important for student growth? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
So, I just think that's really important outside of being outside the traditional classroom. Like I can't emphasize it enough. Like it's one thing to be in classrooms where you can kind of regurgitate, information on tests and like you're often asked to like analyze something and voice your opinion or review and that kind of thing. But it's another thing to really utilize that knowledge and go actually create something with it. And like in classrooms, for instance, when you're asked to share something when a teacher calls on you, then you're supposed to share it, right? But like in a team environment, like for instance, I do competitive robotics. Sometimes you have to come up with your own opinions and share them to a group of people who might are sometimes keen to listen to you and sometimes aren't so keen to listen to you, right? It's often a test of like how you can communicate and like being able to come up with ideas. Like basically, there's a limit to how much a classroom can present you in terms of real experience and knowledge. And that's why I think just being outside of a classroom, doing stuff like in innovation robotics that really puts you out there and like a real environment, that's just really important because everyone needs to exercise those skills, not just in a classroom where everyone wants to hear you speak, where you're supposed to just say what was written. You often encounter problems where sometimes even like the coach or all the students don't really know how to solve, and that's real life. So
that's real life, exactly. Such a good way to say it. How do you think your experience of building and deploying the tourist schedule app will help you prepare for college and your career, maybe in innovation and technology?
Yeah, so when I originally pitched the Tory Schedule app, I had done robotics previously, so I had experience in computer science, but that was coding robots, not actually coding applications. So the first thing I needed to do was take tons of online courses and just really teach myself like JavaScript and how to deploy to the app and iOS store. Often, no, very frequently, I ran into issues that like my first instinct was like to cry over because I didn't know how to solve them. So it really it put a test to my grit and that kind of thing because I had to personally reach out to people I didn't know to ask them questions about, oh, how are you supposed to do this, and just investigate on my own. And I think that process of learning how to be adaptable and flexible in times of difficulty is just, again, really going to help me in life and college in general.
Absolutely. It's not only about the educational skills, the technical skills, but also the soft skills that you can develop that makes you successful in college and throughout your career. What a good point. Thank you all for answering my questions. I'd like now to really ask questions to all of you and to go back again to the global vision for the upcoming 10 years and the city's global vision. What is your greatest wish for the future of the city of San Diego? Does anyone want to answer that question?
I guess I can start with a personal view of mine. So I've lived in San Diego all my life, and like I know that when people think of San Diego, they tend to just think of like beaches and good weather and that kind of thing. But if you've lived here for a long time, and like for me personally, I think of San Diego as way more than that. Like, I'm half Chinese, and there's living in San Diego has just exposed me to a lot of like vibrant cultural hubs. Like for instance, there's a lot of places in San Diego that celebrate like the New Year's festival every year, like all over the city. But again, and also we have like we have a lot of like we have Little Vietnam, we have Little Italy, we have a huge Asian food district that everyone knows about in Convoy if you've lived in San Diego for a while, right? We have the big Mexican neighborhood, Barrio Logan, that has like a really vibrant Mexican culture and like lots of good food and that kind of there's just so many communities that I think are all an integral part of San Diego, but just aren't like for lack of a better word, advertised. They aren't really well known unless you've been here for a while. And I think, again, it's a key part of San Diego. And I hope that we can really bring out those multiculturalism and representation of San Diego. So people don't just think of like beaches, they also think, oh, it's a beautiful hub with a lot of different kinds of people and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think we tend to speak about the 5 Bs, the beach, the beer, the biotech, and so on. And yeah, we forget about the richness of our cultural diversity and how we promote it globally. Thank you for sharing this element. If you could speak to the mayor, again, this is a question that I'm going to ask to all of you now. If you could speak to the mayor right now, to Mayor Faulkner right now, and share information about an issue that is most important to you, what would you tell them? What would you tell the mayor and the city council?
Does anyone else have anything to add? I have a personal opinion, but I hope I don't.
Oh, Sa, let's see. I see Sa, and I'll go back to you, Ruslana. Sa, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So can you guys hear me fine?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So for me, I would say like an issue that I would say is this is a trend in San Diego that I've seen or that I've heard about is neighborhoods have been gentrified and like low income people have been moved out of their neighborhoods, and then there's gentrification. And then for example, like I would say like North Park had it used to be it used to be the ghetto, and then now it's so beautiful and so nice. But see, that's like gentrification right there. So and a lot of people moved out, and that's very beautiful and very rich. So what I would want to tell the mayor is that I hope San Diego can improve on like preventing gentrification in other diverse neighborhoods such as mine, that is City Heights, and there's also other beautiful neighborhoods that are like slowly in the process. So that's what I would definitely like to touch on. And also, um, I know like I've lived in this neighborhood for like a few years already, and I've seen like an increase of cops, increase of patrolling around. Yeah, like San Diego is known as one of the finest states, and I mean finest cities, and we have a lot of cops around. But like we also need like money in the education system to help the youth, because like there's crime, there's crime in the neighborhood for sure. But I think if we have more money going into the education system, it's like the root cause of this whole problem. If you don't put money into the education system first, like this is my idea, this is what I think. If you don't put money into the education system, um, this problem will keep increasing. The problem of crime rate will increasing, and you will always need cops. But say if you put money into the education system, which is attacking it at the root, then I think we would have less of the problem and we would need less of the cops. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Saul. Such an important issue, indeed, gentrification and resources in the education system. I see Risha, you're raising your hand. You want to say a few words?
Yeah. So adding on to Sapa was saying, I I think that student voice and student agency in education is very important because everyone, like students are the next generation of San Diego, and they should have a voice in how San Diego is going to be in the future. And it's just empowering to them, and they can feel like they can make an impact so that later in their future they will actually make the impact. And yeah, that's what I wanted to add on.
Thank you, Risha. Such a good point. I wonder if Isabella, Symphony, or Simuline, you have any thoughts about it. Symphony, I see you raising your hand. Go ahead.
Um, One of the if there was anything that I can tell the mayor right now, I think that it would surround a policing problem, which I think is very current as well. But I don't think that San Diego has a lot of pressure to, push forth on the police in San Diego. But I have had personal experiences with the police in San Diego, and I don't know if I should share it because it's a little bit deep, and I don't know if that's the climate right now. But yeah, I've had really deep experiences with the police in San Diego, and there's not pressure like there's pressure on a lot of other cities right now, with protests and everything going on. But San Diego is not one of them, and stats show that the San Diego Police Department does have bias towards people of color, and so because there's no pressure on the mayor or in the city to do anything, of course, that's not something that I think San Diego is really focusing on. And I guess, well, I'll just share my story. So personally, as when I was younger, my mom, she was on her campus. She is a professor at Southwestern College, and she was attacked by a cop, and she was unarmed and everything. But yeah, as a really young kid, seeing that and hearing the story and going through the whole court process, that was really hard for me. And of course, I hear nothing about it with San Diego and the police, unfortunately, especially like in the news and stuff. And I think San Diego does, unfortunately, a good job of keeping that under wraps. And like, because my mom's story is a story that's not told. It's, unless it's through me, it's not really told. So yeah, just those type of stories that people have, that have those untold stories, I think are really important. And I wish that, San Diego and the leaders of San Diego, like the mayor, would, take time to listen to that story, because I mean, it really does impact a lot of our lives, and it's really easy to overlook it when you're not directly affected by it, but I have been. So I don't know, I just wish that that was something that people would focus on.
Thank you, Symphony, for sharing this personal story. And I wonder, like, so you're saying, we need to hear more those stories, and And beyond sharing the stories, what can be done according to you in San Diego? What can the mayor and the city council do to address this critical issue?
Um, Police are a very national thing, so I think it's really hard to put a lot of reform into one specific place. But I think that San Diego would be a good start, because it's a very big city. Unlike, other things that I'm passionate about, like climate change and, increasing diversity, police brutality is not something that, you can just, put a piece of technology on and fix. It's not something that, you can just fix quickly or anything like that, or put a gadget on. It's something that I think starts within the people. And I think one of the biggest ways to get change within the people is through empathy, and through empathy is knowing experiences. So I think that, we can start by having people talk, and I understand that it's really hard for a lot of people to talk, about their personal experiences. And, there's a lot of, stigma behind, wanting to get attention or, stuff like that. But I think that's very important for people to speak and to want to hear those people speak as well.
Thank you. Thank you for shedding light on this important topic, and your recommendation to the mayor is noted. Simuline and Isabella, we have 1 more minute. Do you want to add something to this question, which is, what would you tell the mayor right now about an issue that is important to you? Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would probably speak about how passions outside of school, how we need more space, especially outdoors, and not even just like performing in shows, but everyone's passions, really.
Thank you. What about you, Isabella?
Um, I think if I would have to talk to the mayor, I would probably talk to him about the beaches and how they're being polluted. Like I said earlier with the whale, that was a very unfortunate story where he washed up Phil with trash. And I just hope that nothing like that ever happens again. And I think we need to be more aware about that because people are polluting the earth without even knowing it. Like biking or walking to school is a good example of instead of driving, you could save, I don't know, like a few animals if you didn't drive to places that are close.
Absolutely. We covered a lot of areas here. I feel like, environment, education, social justice, innovation, and technology. And this afternoon, a team of designers are going to continue working on the stories that you've shared and the issues that you have shared to see how this can help developing a global vision for our city that is inclusive, that is competitive, and that improves our city's global reputation and advantages. So thank you for sharing those. Now I'd like to open it up to questions from the audience, and I'll call Lisa from UCSD to see if there are any questions to our panelists.
Mhm. Hello all, I'm a student researcher with the Design Lab, which is a partner in this webinar. And so I'm just gonna go through the Q&A section and just go over some of the questions that were most upvoted to then direct for Fabian to ask the students. So Leslie Bassett asks, do you all see San Diego as a global role model? If so, in what main area like science or culture?
Do you see San Diego as a global role model where San Diego can lead internationally? Is it in innovation or is it in promoting diversity? Is it in tackling climate change issues? Where do you think we can become the champions?
For me personally, being a young student of only 16 years old and having lived in San Diego all my life, it's a rather difficult question to tackle considering I don't have, unlike many people here, I'm assuming, I don't have experience living in another city, so I don't really have anything to compare it to personally. But from my perception, I to kind of speak to what I mentioned before, we have like a lot of vibrant communities around here, and we also have a really strong like STEM population and that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of at least in terms of I understand of biotech and like robotics and that kind of thing, there is a pretty strong region here and that kind of thing. So I guess that would be what I think the strengths of San Diego are. But again, like there's a lack of how much I can compare it to given my experience too. So
Thank you, Ruslana. Anybody else would like to answer this question?
I would. Can you repeat the question again? I think just one more time.
Lisa, would you like to repeat the question?
Mhm. So do you all see San Diego as a global role model, possibly considering like what are San Diego's strengths and how can we play into those and possibly invest in certain areas to help San Diego become also not if it currently is a leader, but also consider where it can become a leader in some areas such as science, culture, environmental sustainability, the biotech industry, etc. Just anything.
Yeah, so I would say, from my experience, I would say that San Diego can really do well on like the culture aspect. Um, I'm a refugee. I'm a refugee who moved, from another country, and San Diego is one of the cities that a lot of refugees and immigrants come to. I would say because we have so many diverse city, as you can see on our panel, we have so many diversity, and so many young leaders. I would say, yeah, that's what we could really do well on.
Such a good point. Yes, I think San Diego has such a strong, diverse community that makes us really well positioned to share best practices and innovative solutions to promote the diversity of the community and have leaders representing that community. Like I see you today, and I'm hopeful about the future of our city, frankly. Lisa, do we have any other questions from our audience?
Mhm. So the next question is from Paula, and she asks, in what ways could schools provide more opportunities to for learners to work on personal design challenges such as Ruslana's? And I think just hearing the students talk about what personal experiences that they've had to engage in hands-on learning, how has it benefited them, as well as where do they think schools can provide these opportunities?
So I think the biggest thing to provide these opportunities is to speak and consider them. Because when we think about innovation, at least in terms of when I've spoken to my friends, they kind of shelve it like, oh, I can't do it because it requires like heavy intellect or like a lot of like, high performance tools and that kind of thing. And the more I've been involved with the design lab, I realized that isn't necessarily the case. What's more important is a thought exercise to encourage you to look around you and just realize, oh, what needs work and what doesn't. Like honestly, a simple classroom where you go and like again tackle certain like I think one of the assignments in an entrepreneurship class I took at La Jolla Country Day was where we as students were all told out to perform some ethnographic research. By that, I mean, within a span of 2 weeks, we had to go find someone in our community, just a random person, and then observe them doing a certain action, like cooking, or that in my case, it was like running a hair salon or like that kind of thing. And then just observe and see like what worked about this process, what didn't work. Like a couple of girls in my class realized that oil splashes when you're cooking are really dangerous. So then they went out and then they pitched the idea, right? Again, it wasn't like they necessarily, of course, they prepared tangible things at the end, prototypes and that kind of thing. But just what was really powerful wasn't so much as like the technical aspect of like, really creating something as much as just the idea and brainstorming thing. And I think that's just really important to encourage in classrooms. So you don't get like, I don't want to say narrow minded, but you can get like clocked up in like a random piece of thought. And I think that's really important.
Thank you, Ruslana. Lisa, do you have any other questions for the panelists?
Yes. So Dia Linda asks if the students have had any opportunity to speak with their local representatives to relay their experiences and concerns, and if so, what the experience was like.
Such a good question.
I'll just start off with personally, I haven't. So, but I'm curious about the others.
Well, so did you have this experience in your advocacy efforts?
Yes, I did. So, for my school, we did I think a work, a shadow work, I think work shadowing others, and I job shadow. Sorry, yeah, job shadow, and I was able to go to meet one of the people who work for the mayors, and was able to advocate about uh, the diversity and talk about the issue of how um, youth are facing difficulties in education system, and also the issue of gentrification. And I was able to the experience was pretty, it went pretty well because the person informed me a lot about why the mayor chose the way chose the things, like for example chose to invest more in um, uh, in the San Diego department, like police department, uh, compared to like investing in the education system of of the public schools. And yeah, it went well, but also I was a little frustrated by the answer as well, because safety is important too, and that's what police bring. But like some people don't, some people don't agree with that. Some people don't agree that cops bring safety, but some people do. And I would say that like just investing more into the education system is, like I said before, it's really tackling down the root cause. And I think that investing into the education system and the root cause is better. But of course, others, I think they voted, like a lot of people voted on investing more into the cops, into the San Diego police department. But I mean, that's what the whole conversation was about. I also asked about how, um, let's see, I also asked about like, well, why do we have so like I think low income communities like are more at a disadvantage than other communities. It was because some people, not some people, the communities invested were able to invest more into the communities that they lived in, and because of their money, they were able to make it more beautiful in terms of not making it look run down. It looks like, as you can see, other neighborhoods, it's really well modern. But if you come to City Heights, you can see like some stores are run down. Some stores even have like things to protect it from people burglarizing it, breaking in. And I live in City Heights. There's this boulevard called the El Cajon Boulevard. I live right across the street from El Cajon Boulevard. So this is as you most of you know, like El Cajon Boulevard it's pretty long, very long. And where I live, if you cross the boulevard, like from one side to the other side, when you like cross that street, it's like a whole different world. You have Kensington and you have Talmadge. That area is very nice. What is it? The road is very nice. It's really it's well paved. The apartments are well built, and they do not look run down. And most of them have what is it? I think like they have fences. And you have Kensington. It's really nice over there. I've been there so many times. But if you cross back again to the other side of the boulevard, you see evidence of poverty. You see evidence of low income, and that's because people have money. And they have enough money to invest in this to make it that nice. But you see, what's not fair for us is that we live in low income community, and I asked like, why can't we have the same thing as them? And then the answer that I was given was like on the lines of, because we just like we're low income and then we don't really have enough money. And most of these like things, like if you want it to look more beautiful, you have to like attend meetings. Like of course a lot of people can't do that from low income communities because they have to provide for their families and they have to go to work, so they don't have the time for that. like they don't even have the time to go to their to parent teacher conferences, which is very sad because, but I mean that's how it is for us low income people, low income communities, and I yeah, that's how my conversation was. I learned a lot. Um, See, I wasn't satisfied with my answer, but of course, gaining knowledge and getting like just learning more about where you live is really important. So just the fact that um, that like we can't really have the same thing as others, like from higher income, is like very sad. And I think we need to really like look on that issue. We really need to tackle that issue of like why other people can't have the same things. And then the answer is like because you're low income and others aren't low income, they're high income. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Saul. What a profound testimonial. Testimonial is maybe not the right word, but sharing your experience. I think you really touching on a very important issue for San Diego. And for all of you, I want to thank you for taking part in our panel today. I hope you can join us at the International Affairs Board meetings that we host on a monthly basis so that we can go deeper into those conversations. I think there's so much we can discuss and benefit from you, to be honest. I also want to thank our audience today for joining us, for asking your questions. I know we run a little bit out of time, but I think the conversation was still very, very deep and rich. If you are interested in engaging even more deeply into those topics, please join us for the second part of this event this afternoon. There will be another session at 2 p.m. It's probably in the Design Week schedule that you can check out. Check out as well the San Diego International Affairs Board on the City of San Diego's website for more information about what we do, and if you are interested in helping us, it will be incredibly welcomed. Enjoy the rest of your design week, and thank you for supporting community design initiatives and human-centric design initiatives. Have a great day.